Well, hi everyone, welcome to day 7 of reading through John's Gospel. We're reading some comments from this guy here and considering the life and claims of Jesus. And so today we're looking at this next section from chapter 1, verse 19 through to 34. We'll break it up over a number of days. But within this section there are a number of key characters. So we're just going to look at them before we do our reading. So in verse 19 we hear about a Levite. And he is a priest because most of the priests came from the family of Levi. We hear of Elijah in verse 21. And it was been promised in the Old Testament book of Malachi that God would send someone like Elijah, who was a famous Israelite prophet, before the Saviour arrived. And in verse 21 it talks about the prophet, and the greatest Old Testament prophet Moses was promised that at the end of his life God would send another like him to lead God's people. And then in verse 24, we hear about the Pharisees, who were mostly local officials who were also very religious people. So let's get stuck into verse 19 to 22. Now this was John's testimony when the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, "I am not the Messiah." They asked him, "Then who are you? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." Finally they said, "Who are you? Give us an answer to take back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" So what we see here is John getting interrogated. And the importance of John the Baptist is that he acts as the link man preparing the way for Jesus. He was fairly popular. The news crews would have been out in the desert following him because he was getting a fair bit of interest. And so what he said would have made the front page. It really held weight. And that's because the Jews had been watching for signs of the coming Saviour. And so understandably they're investigating whether John is the man. The government's religious leaders sent out and they quizzed John, verse 19, "Who are you?" Verse 21, "Are you Elijah? Are you the prophet?" And then verse 22, who are you? But we see clearly that John doesn't want to be the centre of attention. He's very clear in verse 20 saying that he's not the Messiah. So the question is, who is John? And what is he all about? And so just to clarify again, for those who may be just jumping in, this isn't John who's written this gospel. This is John the Baptist. And so we'll see tomorrow what the dialogue, we'll see tomorrow how this continues to unfold.